Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that over had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. One simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee, but I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's MODERE, modere.ca, or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen. All right. Well, welcome back to another edition of our Create the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Candice Smiley, and today we have an encore performance, and you guys all know how much I love them. And our guest today, or my guest today, is none other than the fantastic Bob Hooey. I have been creeping on Bob for a long time. The guy has, you've got some stuff that makes me go, that's cool. And I know we had talked about it before, Bob, that, you really want to get around people who have the life that you want. And I was fascinated by what I had seen sort of, by what's forward facing of your story. But more than that, since we've had a chance to get to know each other, I'm like, you're an interesting guy to talk to. And I know we got some great feedback last time I had you on the show. And I wanted to kind of come back and, dive further into some of the wisdom, because you've got a lot of wisdom and you've hung out with some really cool people. And it's nice to have conversations around that. Now, thank you again for joining me. It's been
Pleasure's
a few
mine.
months. I'm stoked. Now, you've got at least one speaking gig coming up in the next little bit, which is exciting. And we're both a little bit excited for, the way things are going. But what have you been doing to keep yourself busy since we had a chat? I know that you're always up to something, which inspires me.
Well, I've actually got an in-person gig in October, which is great. That's the first in-person one since in 2 years. Everything else has been online like this. Yeah. My little rectangle to the world. So this will be interesting to actually walk out on stage and see people in the audience, not people in little squares. But I've been writing. It's summer here, so summertime is usually a time to work around the house and do what needs to be repaired or fixed or replaced. In this case, we had a hailstorm and wiped out the roof on the one back deck, which was plexiglass. So I ended up having to replace that. Hopefully that's the last time. And a few other a few other little things, built a few more
Birdhouses.
flower beds and things for Irene
Mhm.
to populate. And actually this year, for the first time in about 3 years, I've had some decent days to float in my outdoor pool.
Oh, wow.
Last year, for example, it was 2 days, and one day was so cold I was in for like 3 minutes, and that's it. And the other time I was in for like about an hour, which is good. But this time this summer, it was probably 10 or 12 days
Yeah, it was
where
nice.
it was warm enough I could actually go out in the middle of the afternoon and just jump in my floaty and sit in the pool and relax and meditate and come up with ideas and stuff. And still writing. I don't know if when we talked last, had I published the 2 sales books last time?
No, you had not published the 2 sales books, but I got to tell you, Bob, like when we put show notes in after this, I had to like crunch the show notes because there was so much stuff that you've done in terms of writing and doing and everything else. So no, let's talk about, you have 2 new books out. And
There's the 2 books, volume 1 and volume 2.
Yep.
Success secrets, sales success secrets. Actually, sometimes you just keep busy because you need to keep your mind active. And in my case, I thought, what else can I do? And I thought, well, okay, back in, I'm trying to think when it was probably about 2014. For about 3 years, I had an online sales program that I sold that was across Canada and the US. And every 2 weeks, I had to come up with an article and a video on here's how to be a better salesperson, that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of material. And I thought, well, with a little bit of work, I can turn that into a book. And as it turned out, it turned into 2 books. So I did a volume 1 and a volume 2.
Yes. Well, I love this. And this is something that we've been thinking about. So my VA, my producer, Angel, she just, cannot get enough of all the stuff that you do. And she's constantly bugging me to like, just get the content out there. So, I like to throw her in here once in a while because, she certainly makes this thing possible. But I'm excited for that. And
Yeah.
you and I have been talking a lot about, a lot of your books are not huge. And I
No.
think that there's an element of keeping it digestible, which is huge because when you're talking about a concept as big as sales or some of the other things that you talk about, digestible is super important because it's like one little thing that somebody can work on for forever.
Yeah. Well, and the secret, I'm going to see if I can find, this is let's see if I can find that, pull it out. There's a stack of books over here about 1.5 feet high.
Yes.
This is the original sales book was actually about this high compared to that.
Mm-hmm.
I redid it last year as an ebook, so we redesigned it and did the whole thing. And this one designed with simply, if you look at it, you can look at the page. Each page, when I was doing the other one, was like, okay, 1, 2, 3. That would be 3 pages.
Right.
In the small book.
Yes.
Meant to be, and I did it because I had an idea when I was going to launch this online sales program. Mm-hmm. My client phoned me up and he said, Hooey, I want you to book a ticket to come to Chicago. And I went, why? And he said, well, because I belong to this group called Strivers. Mm-hmm. And it's 10 companies about the size of the brick that we get together 3 times a year. And we share best ideas. And he said, you're my best idea this year. So I want to share, well, I want to share the secret selling tips. So yes. I said, yeah, okay. So I literally sat down in 3 days, wrote the book, mm-hmm. published the book, and took 12 copies with me to Chicago. Wow. And the strength of that, and spending 15 minutes explaining what we had done in mm-hmm. building the program and whatever, $105,000 worth of sales.
Wow.
US.
Wow.
That little inky dinky book. So when I do the program on books, I say sometimes a book is not a book. Sometimes it's a really mm-hmm. prolific business card.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I know there's a lot of people out there, that are getting involved in these, compilation books and they're looking to put it out there. But I think we get so much credibility from the written word, regardless of how, prolific online is. There's something about a book. And I love
Yeah.
that. It's a business
Well,
card.
whether we like it or not, I mean, and again, like you say, a lot of stuff is now online, and it's important to do that, to do videos and
Yeah.
podcasts and all of the other electronic media. But
Mm.
there's still an interesting cachet about being an author, not just a writer, but an author. An author is somebody who's been published, and there's just that little credibility edge,
Mhm.
like within the speaking world, of being an author and speaker
Yes. Yeah.
rather than just a speaker. It may not be the only edge, but sometimes if they've got two speakers and one is also an author, they might go, oh, okay, maybe this guy knows more.
But isn't that fine edge the difference?
Yeah.
From I think it's Brian Tracy, right? He talks about the nose, right? And the horse wins by a nose. I've
Yeah.
often thought about that, right? Because of course I love the phrase of, I'll meet you at the post and pass you the grandstand.
Yeah.
That it might only be by that little tiny bit. That
And sometimes that's all you need. I mean, during the Olympics, I was watching it, and sometimes people won by being able to puff their chest out just that teeny bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, in some of the photo finishes, it was like that much, if you can see that. Like,
yes.
it was like that much, and that's what made the difference between, winning and coming in second or third or fourth or fifth or whatever.
Fifth, and not even.
It's just pushing that little bit more at the end, and you'd see some of them that would back off at the end, and maybe they were doing that primarily in the preliminaries, but in the finals, if you do that, you're going to lose.
Yep. Yeah.
You got to run past the line. It's like I remember somebody once was talking about martial arts. When you're doing the breaking the bricks and stuff like that, you said the boards, they said you got to think through the board. Don't think hit the board, think through the board. Because if you just go to hit the board, you could break your hand.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That through that point, and I hadn't thought about that they need to run past the line and not slowing before that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There's a famous picture, and it might even be the guy who did the 4-minute mile, which was done in Vancouver during one of the Olympics. The one guy who was leading turned his head to take a look, and the other guy passed him.
Yes.
I can't remember the details, but in my mind, I see the picture where he's turning and the guy's passing him on this side.
Yes.
It's just that, that's the thing. I mean, you got to keep your eye on the goal.
You do.
And blow through the goal. You can slow down afterwards.
Well, I was thinking too, is that there's that one of the swimmers too, right? Where he's looking over rather than continuing forward. And that's an audiobook that I really enjoyed, talks about that as well. And that runners, they have to run to their own rhythm, or they get overtaken by whoever it is behind them. And it's such a subconscious thing, which is just very, very cool. But yeah.
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned swimmers. I've often thought about that. You watch them and you think, I wonder how many times in practice they smack the end of the pool.
Yes. I have wondered that a lot, actually. Yes.
Because I mean, how do you know where your strokes are compared to where the edge of the pool is? And yet if you hold off, again, you see people that are just that close, it's interesting to think about stuff like that. And then sometimes if you do, you say, okay, how does that apply to me?
Yeah.
How does that apply to me where I am in terms of where did I slow down when I should have pushed?
Yes.
Or where did I slack off where I should have dug in and found that second burst of energy to push and push through the challenge and the fatigue and the frustration to get where I need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad and I were talking about that because he was amazed at, especially with like mothers, right? Mothers, they don't get sick. The whole household can be sick. And mom's like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, exactly.
I've often thought about that I was like, there's such a, and being a mom, I can literally feel something shift in me. And I said to Dad, Dad, when I feel that shift, the only other time I've ever felt that internally in my body energetically is when I've made a decision to go for a goal, and usually blown, like you say, right past it, and it surprised even myself. But yet we don't necessarily function as athletes to go after that kind of thing. So
no. And that's part of training, I think.
I think so too.
I think it's training. If and again, I'm trying to think of a story. There was a story of, I used to tell a story, and I can't think of the name of the horse now.
Oh,
But the horse was trained to teach other horses how to win. In other words, it was always held back, and it never was allowed to win. So that other horses could get used to bypassing her.
sure.
And finally what happened is, they had a jockey and an owner that believed that the little horse could do it, and all of a sudden he started winning. He was winning against like people like Man of War and some of these big horses.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I used to tell that story all the time. I can't think of the name of the horse.
You'll think of it later. We'll drop
I haven't been doing enough speaking. I forget.
I was gonna say, Bob, you're out of practice.
Yeah, I am out of practice. But I mean, that's the point. I mean, I tell people, and I tell the story of, here's a broken down horse that's never been able to win, and a jockey that's been broken down and has a broken leg, and an owner who's a little woohoo,
Sure.
And most people would say, yeah, that's a winning team.
No. Yeah.
And yet that became a winning team, and for many years that was the horse to beat. He was beating all comers, just because he for something he found he could do it, and he did it.
You did it.
And he just never looked back.
Yes, quite literally. Yeah, no, but I think that's often something you see with champions, or even with people who seem to be able to accomplish this goal, right? And they do the thing that it seems impossible until it's done, and then everybody does it, which is what.
Well, that's like the 4-minute mile. That was impossible until it happened.
Yes.
And what people don't realize is the person who came in second also broke the 4-minute mile.
Oh, interesting. But we don't remember that person.
No, he's the guy that looked back and.
Yeah, he's the guy that looked back.
But he still broke the 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
Because for years they had said, it's physically impossible to run the 4-minute mile. The body isn't designed for, and they had all these reasons why you couldn't do it. And then after that, if you couldn't run a 4-minute mile, you shouldn't be in the running business.
Right.
Because it had been done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, I can't remember reading someplace they were saying that they didn't want trains to go so fast because people couldn't stand the speed. Their body wouldn't handle being on something that was going that fast, which is actually really stupid, because you're sitting still on something that's going fast. It's not like you're going fast.
Yeah.
The vehicle is going fast. But they were saying, oh no, you can't do that because the body won't stand it.
Yeah. Well, my dad was even talking about flight, right? That we've actually had so much change in the last 100 years, 200 years, flight being one of them, and how flight was totally impossible, right? You were a fanatic to believe that, compared to now, where it's just part of life. It's really quite amazing.
Well, it's not impossible. It's just been delayed for 18 months.
Yes.
Or 19 months. And unless the world goes totally in the crapper in the next week and a half, I'm finally getting on a plane to go to Atlantic Canada for 2 weeks, just to play tourist, being tourist in my own company or my own country.
It's fun. I'm excited for you. I know that traveling around certainly BC and Alberta in the last year, because I used to be on a plane all the time for work, would often fly into spaces and places, and I would never have discovered some of the, like, there's some really beautiful places in and around. But
well, no, there's some great places in Canada, and believe me, I don't mind traveling. I mean, in this case, one of the places I'm going is Newfoundland, where I've never been. There's 2 places I haven't.
You've never been.
I've never been to Newfoundland, and I've never been to Nunavut. And that's the only 2 territories or provinces that I've never traveled to.
Mm-hmm.
And so after this, I'm going to have to jump on a plane and go to Nunavut for a day just to say I've been there.
Just to say I've been there. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure with your speaking, you've been all over the world. Is there a place in the world that you've yet to go that
Well, lots of places. I mean, I've only been to 60 countries, so there's 140 some. I'm not sure. The Toastmasters is in 144 countries. So
oh wow!
I got a long ways to go. But like for example, last year when we had to cancel, You know, I was supposed to be going to Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to be going to Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
and I was supposed to be going to Portugal, which are three places I've never been.
Sure.
So and that got canceled. So I did something online for Malaysia last week. We did an inner circle for the Malaysian Association of Professional Speakers.
Sure.
And I said, "Hi guys, this is as close as I'm going to get. This is what you call social distancing at
Yeah.
a speaker level, you know."
Yeah.
So myself and another speaker from Australia spent 3 hours with them. It was my evening, it was their morning,
Right.
and we shared some things that helped them in their speaking growth.
And
And
remind me, Bob, what made the shift for you from sales into speaking and speaking into sales? Like, remind me about that journey, because I know you did, that shift with, a lot of what I would consider the greats, right? The Brian Tracy's and that sort
yeah,
of thing of the world, before social media and things
yeah.
like TikTok made it so much easier to show up. So what was that transition? Remind me.
Well, actually, I was still in the kitchen business in those days.
Okay.
And what I started doing, initially, we started doing in-house small seminars on how to design a kitchen.
Right.
And the idea is we'd have 7 or 8 couples come in and we'd spend 2 or 3 hours saying, okay, here's some various kitchen design, here's some stuff you should look at. And when you're shopping, you should think about this. And here's some basic design elements and whatever. And inevitably, I'd get 2 or 3 of them that would come up afterwards and say, could you help us with our kitchen? And I could graciously say, of course, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Which is what I wanted to do, was to get new customers.
Right.
And, same thing with speaking at Rotaries and stuff, talking about design and time management and stuff, which built the business with the kitchen design. And then I started doing programs outside of design. Like the first one was a time management program.
Okay.
And that opened the door to speaking in the States, where people actually started paying me. My first paid engagement was an hour and 15-minute program called Running Too Fast, which is coincidentally one of the books that I wrote, called Running Too Fast. And initially it was like a 15-minute program I had done at Rotary.
Okay.
And somebody said, hey, could you come and do that for us down in Tucson? And I said, sure. It was 3 months down. So I thought, okay, I got 3 months to go from 15 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. And then I jumped on a plane and flew down on Friday night. Did the program on Saturday and spent the weekend down there. Sunday, I'm sitting, or no, did I fly down Friday and spoke Friday? I think I spoke Friday night. Then I had Saturday and Sunday down there. Hung out with some Toastmaster friends at the hotel.
Yep.
And mid afternoon, I'm sitting there drinking a Pepsi at the pool, thinking, this could be pretty cool. I just got paid. It wasn't a lot of money. It was like $1,500 US.
Sure.
But I got paid $1,500 to talk about time management and how to be more productive. And I thought, maybe I should do more of this. So, and I think that was the mental shift that said, maybe I could do something. And a year or so later, it's funny how things happen, because about a year or so later, I was working for a company in White Rock. And White Rock, or no, that wasn't the one. It was Aldergrove, BC. And they were owned by a company in Winnipeg. And in their wisdom, they decided 2 weeks before Christmas to change their commission structure, going into the new year.
Yeah.
And, I had gone to work for them because one of the guys who was the manager had worked for me when I opened the 2 Home Depots in BC. And so he was saying, he's just taking on this thing. And I said, tell you what, I will come work for you on the condition that if I need to take time off, and I can usually tell you a month or 2 months in advance, because in those days you were booked further down. Now it's sometimes closer. And as long as I can take the time off, and I'll make up the days, and whatever. And so I said, Arden, I'm sorry, but this just doesn't work. And I'm going to finish up what I'm doing, and I'm leaving in January. And so I literally jumped on a plane and went to the Cook Islands for a week.
Yeah.
Because it's and again, this is funny how things happen. I
Mm-hmm.
had been teaching my Speaking for Success program in a number of colleges in BC, and there was a lady who worked for Air New Zealand who was in my class, and her final project, speaking project, was slideshow talking about the Cook Islands and da 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 da. And I just said to her, I said, "Man, that looks like a great place. If you ever get any deals, let me know. I'd love to go."
Okay.
And so I leave the company,
Mm-hmm.
and about a middle of January, I get this phone call. "Hey, Bob, it's so and so. Remember me from your course?" I go, "Yeah, how you doing? What's happening?" She said, "Have I got a deal for you? If you can go like next week, I can get you a deal. It's not free, but it's as close to free as I can get you. You know, you have to basically pay your way to Hawaii like regular on Air
Sure.
Canada, but from there I can get you a comp and da 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 da, and I'm gone."
God.
And so I literally spent a week in Rarotonga,
Wow.
and Rarotonga it's an atoll. You know, it's like nothing. It's a big reef with
Mhm.
water and an island in the middle, and it's nothing but beaches. So every day I jumped on my little motorbike,
Yep.
and I had a towel and a glass and a bottle of water and a book, and I found a beach, which wasn't hard because it was all beaches.
And I found a
Eh,
beach.
and another beach. Life is a
Yep.
beach.
Life's a
And
beach.
I literally thought about it, and I thought, last year,
Mm.
part-time, a little bit here, a little bit there, I made 18 grand last year speaking.
Nice.
Maybe if I put some effort into it, I could make a living at this. And so I came back and went, okay, I'm a speaker.
I'm a speaker. And this is one of the things I have loved about chatting with you, is because, you haven't had it all figured out. You haven't had, the map. You haven't whatever, just been like, this is good. I should try this.
Wow.
Or what stood out for me, one of the things you'd said last time we interviewed you was, um, that you sometimes said yes and then had to figure out how to do it. And I was like, oh, right here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the truth of it. I mean, if we waited until we had all the answers, we'd never leave home.
True.
Seriously. And, I just sometimes we just have the opportunity is there. You have to say yes to the opportunity.
Yeah.
And the worst that can happen is you're going to learn something.
Yes. Well, I heard a quote a week ago that said, sloppy success was better than perfect mediocrity. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't remember who
I
said
get
it,
I
but
get I
oh,
get that.
yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather fail doing something than sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
And
There's,
somebody once said to me, "Aren't you worried about burning out?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, I'd rather burn out than rust out."
oh, that's good. I have a tendency to burn out, and a lot of the people
Well,
around
I
me
do
as
too,
well.
but
Yeah.
I've learned to pace myself.
Oh,
Although this last 18 months has been more pacing myself than I really anticipated.
forced pacing that maybe Bob isn't so into.
Yeah.
But
Well, the one thing that I did once I got established in the business
mm,
is I would start taking breaks around speaking. If I went someplace nice, and lots of times I did,
yeah.
I would take some extra days or an extra week and just
Mm,
veg and play, and play tourist. Like,
yeah.
at least twice in the last since 2015, I
Mhm.
spoke twice in Paris as well as other places. And
Yeah.
both times Irene came with me,
Nice.
and both times we played tourist afterwards.
Mhm.
The one time we rented a car, and for 2 weeks we literally just, where do you want to go? Well, let's go to Germany. Okay, that's over there about half a day.
That's
Okay,
beautiful.
well, let's go to Belgium. Okay, that's over there and here. And we just crisscross Europe because it's really not that big.
No.
And so we just explored. I mean, that's what we're going to do when we go to Newfoundland, because she's been there, but I haven't.
Mm.
And so for me, it's all new. I don't care where we go. I just want to see some of it.
Want to go. Yeah. No, I've been thinking a lot about that. Obviously, there's been a lot of change in my life, and I feel like prepping for the change and allowing for the change. So when I had Inara, I realized I needed to book at least a half an hour on
Yeah,
either side of any appointment, call, you name it, because I would need to be in mom mode for a few minutes.
yeah,
And as soon as I started adding that time in, just extending the appointment, I was on time for things. And so, of course, with anticipation of, new baby coming in, I've been like, okay, how do I set this up so that I am able to maintain and continue to grow? Because there's been some really exciting things, that are
Yeah.
coming down for me. And it's as simple as I've realized that I really need to disappear and go backcountry camping or just tune out from the social media, just not
Yeah.
to be so present. Just, for like 6 days a month, not just every second, like, every second weekend, I have that ability to do. And it's amazing when I started saying this to people who are used to me working 24/7, because I really enjoy what I do for work. So it's easy
Yeah.
to forget to take a break. That at first people were like, oh, that's different. But what I found, Bob, is, and maybe this is the same for you, after that rest, I come back and I'm like, the ideas are clearer, the writing is better.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I actually have energy for this. And I realized I was actually grouping. So, like, you need the personal time, you need the recharge time, you need the work time. And I was grouping a lot of those things together rather than saying, I'm booking off half a day today to
Good for you.
simply write the blog. That's all
Yeah.
I'm doing today. I'm not going to feel guilty that this is fun time. No, this is part of the work. And
Yeah.
that's made such a difference for me.
Well, and that's actually just good time management.
Yes.
Just on just the flex time before and after,
Yeah.
because inevitably stuff goes long or
Yep.
something happens, and if you're scheduled too close, and I teach that, never schedule more than I
Mhm.
can't remember what I said. I'll have to read the book again,
That's
but
your
never
notebook.
schedule more than about 50% of your day,
Yeah. Yeah.
because things are always going to get in the way of what you got planned.
Yep. Yep.
Always, always. I mean, if you go through a day and you're ahead of schedule, bonus.
Yep. And is it Bob Proctor or Brian Tracy? I forget which one writes down the 6 things that he wants to do the night before and then like puts it by his bedside table. And I'm like, only 6? Because 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
I have way too much on my schedule. And since I've started, I have 2 lists now. I have a to-do
Yeah.
list, which, sometimes includes things like laundry. That's important to do.
Yeah.
And then an accomplishment list. This is
Yeah.
if I do these, 6 things this year, I will move my life forward. And then
There you
I
go.
break them down into the to-do list. And since I've done that, things are actually getting done.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the key is to hit the road running, but if you have a destination in mind, okay, what's the most important thing I can do with my time? What's going to move me forward? What's going to give me satisfaction? What's going to make my life feel fulfilled? Whatever your
Mhm.
value system is, then do that first.
Yes.
Or like Brian Tracy said and stuff, he said, sometimes you got to eat the frog first,
Eat the frog first. Yes.
just to get it out of the way. Okay, you're facing some thing to do.
Yeah.
Get it done and get it out of the way
Yes.
and move on.
Yes.
Like and I tell people, like, if in the time management stuff, I build in time to make changes, but also understand the power of uncommitment.
Yeah.
Where you phone somebody and say, Candice, I know that I promised I would do this for you.
Yes.
And in all honesty, given the schedule that I've done, I can't see that it's going to happen. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some options we could do, but the
Mhm.
reality is I can't do it when I said I was going to do it. And that frees you up,
Yes.
because we're so afraid of disappointing people that we will kill ourselves.
Yeah.
Or we'll lie and we'll hide and come up
Mhm.
with excuses why we didn't get it done, which is, I'm not sure which one is worse.
Yeah.
But just be honest. If you've overcommitted, and we've all done it, then the first thing you want to do if you want to get free is to say what really needs to get done in the time frame that I have, and say, okay, that's what I'm committed to. Everything else doesn't happen.
Mhm.
And if somebody else is involved, you let them know.
Yes.
Because if you don't do something and you don't tell people in advance, phoning afterwards and say, I'm sorry, that's an excuse. If you tell them in advance, even if it's short term, it's a reason.
Yep.
And people may not like it, but they respect it because deep down they understand, because they do it too.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I phone you up and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot today's podcast. Oh, you're going to think, what an idiot. I only sent you a reminder yesterday and another one before. And, we talked about it when we had a chat.
Yes.
How did you forget?
Yeah.
Whereas if I knew I couldn't make it and let you know, Candice, I can't make it on Friday. Can we reschedule?
Yep.
Then you know what it's like, because you've had life happen too.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. And then,
and the advantage you have in here is because you have a producer and somebody can help you with the editing. Worst case scenario, something happens. You just say, let me pause the recording for a minute. I have to deal with something. I have a little something that needs attention.
Yes.
And then come back and carry on.
Yes. 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 And I appreciate.
And you put it together, because I mean, you do that with your final stuff anyway, because you put in your advertisements and your whatever. So that'd be a perfect time to just, you put in an advertisement, come back. Okay, now we're back with Bob.
Yeah, I was on someone's podcast before this, and she like dropped the camera and she's like, I'll edit that out. No, maybe I won't. And I was like, honestly, I think some of those, bloopers are more fun.
Leave it in. Life happens. Life happens.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, when I'm doing stuff like this, I get my cats pissed off at me because I shut the door and don't let them in. If I'm just doing like a Friday morning one or whatever, the cats come in. Oh, there's Mr. Dusty, and people know him around the world. But when I'm doing something like this, or I'm doing a training program online, the door is shut and the cats stay out.
Yeah.
But things happen.
Things happen.
Once in a while, I've forgotten to move the phone out, or
Yes. Yeah. No, I hear you. It's sort of a grand production to make this kind of thing happen, but I think that's fun. Oh my goodness.
So in your case, you do this and then she does the post-production work as well?
No, I do a lot of the editing myself, to be completely honest with you, and she's in charge of basically keeping me on track, which I really appreciate, because I am highly creative. And
well, that's good to know.
Yes. So if I get stuck into, this needs to be posted on this day at this time, I find myself resisting. It's entertaining. As soon as something feels like a job, I don't want to do it.
Oh, okay. So she takes that part of it for you then.
She does. And I really appreciate it. It's freed up so much brain space. And I mean, I'd heard that advice when I got started as an entrepreneur, hire the VA, hire those people to do the tasks that you don't love. And it's really only been the last couple of years that I've actually looked at my life and went, I don't love this part at all. So I'm going to hire that little piece out, and then I can do the rest. I'd love
that makes sense. That makes sense.
But yeah. So she handles all that, which is magical.
Okay. Yeah. That's good though.
Yeah.
Well, and that frees you up to be more creative overall.
It does.
Which is really, if you're not being creative, this stuff doesn't happen.
It doesn't. And she really respects that, which I really appreciate. In fact, I asked her early on in our working together, I said, what do you get out of this? Because I mean, I really enjoy the process of interviewing and having this, conversation with people. I enjoy reaching out to people. These are things I, naturally, I get a hit off of. This is fun for me. I wouldn't be as fulfilled if I was doing what you do. And for her, the service piece is such a huge part of it. So being a part of what I'm doing. And so it's just magical when you meet the right person to support that. So blessed in that way.
Well, it's interesting. Irene does a lot of that for me. I mean, we were doing some of that when we were dating. She was helping with some of the editing, and since then she's taken over the editing and the production of the books and a lot of the video stuff and the websites. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous.
Yes.
And I can do I can do the basics, so I don't have to when I first started, I would send changes and I'd have to type it in Word and send it to my web guy in Victoria and say, okay, here's the paragraph as it is. Here's how I want it.
Sure.
And now I've know enough to go in and just change one or two words and those kinds of things. But and it makes difference because she knows she's very good at it.
Yes.
And I can do it, but she's much better at it than I am.
Yes.
And that frees me up to produce.
Exactly. And which is magical. So, Angel and I have got some ideas for what we'd like to do in terms of a show. So where we want to take this and how we want to collaborate.
Okay.
And that's really, really fun because, now we've gotten to the point where she bosses me around, right? So did you read, the person's bio, which I did, but of course I'm, already creative and thinking about how I want the show to go. So
Yeah.
again, I think, we are really defined, and our growth is so determined by the people we surround ourselves with. And I'm really blessed that she, sees something here and is involved in it.
So let me ask you a question. Have
Yeah.
you sat down and had a conversation like this with her on your podcast?
I have not, but I have teased her that it should happen. And in fact,
I think that would be very helpful to
oh,
people.
I'd love to. I'd love to, mostly so that people know who she is and they have a real sense of, the team behind,
Yeah.
what we do. And the intent.
But it also goes back to what you said in terms of learning to do what you love and having other people take on certain things. And that's a teaching moment that you can do by sharing the story directly with a conversation with her.
What a great idea. Well, she's going to get the edited version of this and she'll be listening. So I'm not going to say anything until she
Yeah. So hint, get ready to be on the
yes.
show on beyond camera instead of behind the camera. You'll have fun. It'll
Yeah,
be informative, and a lot of us will be glad to watch it. Okay. There you go. Hint,
wonderful.
hint, nudge, nudge.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Well, and she's got an incredible story in and of, of herself, which I think is one of the reasons why we relate so well, right? It's great when you find someone and you're like, oh, our stories, there's a mirroring effect. So I would love to share that. So, well, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Just an idea.
I like it. You
Yeah.
are the ideas man. So this is
Yeah. Well, it just makes sense because people like sometimes behind the scenes. Like the thing I did for Malaysia,
Mhm.
the other speaker comes from a history of being a newscaster, a videographer, for
Mhm.
high-end TV and whatever, that's his thing with the big fancy cameras and whatever.
Yes.
And so he's now moved into speaking, and he basically in an hour plus the other half hour breakout was showing us how to use our smartphone to produce and edit some amazing videos.
Yeah.
Because he said now you have an amazing camera
Yeah.
and video camera in your phone. For most smartphones are, he said, all the stuff I showed us some examples, that's all done with my little smartphone.
Mhm. Yeah.
And some of it was like, I'm going, really?
Yep. Yeah.
And so that was kind of the behind the scenes part. And even people who don't do that are interested in it for no other reason to say, Irene, here's something you need to learn.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like when I first started doing the online program with the brick, about a month after I started doing, I found out that they had an in-house studio, film studio, that I could book time in. And so I thought, so I said, by the way, I just told Kim we're going to add video to every issue, and I'll go in and shoot it, and then you can edit it. And she said, I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, not yet.
Not yet. Yep.
Yeah, and she did, and that made what we produced that much more valuable, because people sometimes saw it in a video, then it was actually written out. Yes. And the first bunch of them came from that book I showed you. I just took what I'd already written, repurposed it, and I just did it. They had a video a teleprompter, and I just read it. I just learned how to read my writing. And after I did the first series, I went, okay, I'm going to write some new ones. I'm going to write it a little more like I would speak. So I would speak it, then I'd write it, and then it would. And they were amazed because I'd go in and I'd book an hour once a month. And I could do 21 minute or minute and a half programs in an hour. And very seldom did I have to say, okay, let's start over again. Because one, if I flub a little bit, okay, that makes it real. I didn't worry about it. If I lost my track and where I got out of whack with what I had written, then I say, okay, let me just dial that back. We'll do that one again. So just keep the thing running, and I take two. Yeah. And I learned to leave a little space at the beginning of each little program, and at the end, so that Irene could cut it and put the opening and the end, and that became a good part of what we did.
Awesome. I know that when I'm doing a lot of my videos, and I don't do much of it now, but I'm doing a little bit of consulting to help people, get their brands online. And I was chatting with one gal and she'd done like 7 or 8 takes of a particular, just getting into the groove, right? And I said, the first few are, never what I want them to be.
Yeah.
And I said, half the time I said, I have 26 little videos. I'm like, delete, 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 delete. Oh, this one's good. Like, so I said, just go with it. Like, it's on your phone and make the adjustments and
Exactly.
Yeah, just go with it.
And when you feel comfortable, then go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just remember to stop for a second in between each so that you can slice it. Because that was the one thing I had to teach myself is when I started to deliberately just do a quick count of 5, and at the end do a quick count of 5, and then you'd have enough room to cut it and splice in the opening and the ending. It's just, after a while, anybody can do it. If I can do it, anyone can.
Well, that's the thing. And I mean, even especially now, right? There's so much amazing content online. It's an entirely different space, even for me as a millennial. It's just I'm learning Clubhouse these days. I'm learning TikTok, and I've been taking myself back to school, which, to be honest, Bob, I really like being in learning mode. I'm much happier when I'm sort of like behind the pack, and then I can just kind of swing around and do my own thing. I like to sort of work in my own space, run to my own routine. But I like being in learning mode. I feel like saying, well, I don't even know what I'm doing yet, but I'll check back, learning, which I enjoy.
Well, and then you look back after 6 months down the road or a year down the road and go, man, have I come a long way? Seriously, like even in terms of speaking, I think back, and I tell people that, when I first started in Toastmasters, 30 some years ago, I was nervous. I was stiff. I was preachy. I really was preachy. I didn't smile.
I would love to see some old videos.
Well, that's what I tell people. In some ways, I'm glad there's no video because it would be embarrassing. But I wish there was, because then I can show people, because people don't believe it.
I don't. I do, but I would love to see. I'd be like, let's.
Because they see me. They see me now. They didn't see me when I started.
Yes.
Where it was artificial. It was awkward.
It was awkward.
Because I wasn't sure what I was saying.
Sure.
And I wasn't sure I could remember what I wanted to say. And I like I say, I didn't smile. I mean, that was the biggest thing for a long time. I didn't smile because I wasn't having fun. I was so in my head trying to get this out and be motivational in my head that there was none of this happening. I was so freaking serious. It was like I was baptized in lemon juice,
That's awesome. Baptized in lemon juice. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's true. And I love that you bring that up, because I know that for so many people, they're like, well, it just feels awkward and weird. And I was like, I know. Or it's like the hashtag, I'm going to delete this later. Like, that's totally a me. Put up, no, we do it again.
Well, it's funny. It's like the guy who introduced me for the Malaysia thing. He and I met when we both spoke in Philippines the summer before, 2 summers ago. And he introduced me. He said, I was just watching Bob having fun on stage. And I thought, that's what I do. I do my homework and I get up and I do what I do, and then I'm done.
Yes.
And I try and have fun up there. And if I screw up, well, okay, I screw up, but I carry on. I mean, it's live. It's not like you can't edit it out because it's live in front of a real audience. And whatever you do is whatever you do. And if you mess up, you try and find a way to say, well, okay, take two. Or little things like I tell people, if you forget something, one thing I learned is never give people a list. I'm going to tell you 5 things, because what happens if you only remember 4? There'll be somebody in the audience that's anal and says, what's number 5?
And then you'll be like,
or maybe you'll do 6 or 7 things, It's a number of things I'd like to share with you, because that way, if later on you remember one, I was just thinking, remember when we talked about this? Here's another idea. Which is going back and saying, here's what I needed to tell you, but I forgot.
Here's what I needed to tell you, but I forgot. That's awesome.
But I mean, that's part of it. After a while, you don't take, I take what I do serious.
Yeah.
I don't take me serious.
Me seriously. Yes.
And that's the difference. Is I get up, I do what I do, And when I'm done, I'm done.
One of the things that made such a difference for me, because I've done a lot more singing and performing in that way than I have speaking.
Yeah.
And I used to be very, very nervous
Yeah.
about that. And then it really sort of shifted when someone said, "Why are you nervous?" Half of us could not imagine finding the courage to get up and doing what you do. So, stand at least in that power. And I was like, that's really good. So I remember
Yeah.
that a lot now when I'm up there. I'm like, even if I fall on my face, at least I'm up here doing, and
Well,
there's so much joy in
most
what I
people
do.
wouldn't do what we do.
I do.
Seriously, the majority of people would rather die. Like the old joke is,
I rather die.
they'd rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy,
Yes. Yes.
and because they're so afraid of it. And that still hits, the majority of people in the world they're
Mhm.
afraid to get up and speak or perform or
Mhm.
something where people are watching you.
Yes.
And, eventually you just get, hey, I'm doing what I'm doing.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've
Uh,
got some passion for it. I've got
yeah.
some expertise for it. I believe that what I'm saying is worthwhile listening to, so I'm going to give it.
Mhm.
Or if you're performing, I want to enjoy this. I want to share the enjoyment of what I'm doing.
Yes.
Like I've been watching America's Got Talent in the
I
last little
love
while,
those ones. Those are
and
so cool.
and some of the people are so pathetic. But you think about it, they're doing it on national TV, international TV,
Yeah.
anyway, and they must know they're pathetic.
Maybe.
Well, I hope they aren't, because if they don't, they're deluded and pathetic. But some of them, God bless them, they're giving it their best,
Yep.
and it's just, and then some of them, they just blow you away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like there's a young girl on there now that sings opera or
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, holy crap.
I know, right?
She's this, well, okay, she's not this tall, she's taller, she's about this tall standing up,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden this voice comes out of her, and you go, where is that coming from?
I can remember watching, this is pre those kinds of shows. I think it was on like a Dr. Phil or something years ago, of somebody who was incredibly good at piano and they would never play because they had so much stage fright. And I remember thinking that is such a gift that the rest of the
Yeah.
world would love to experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often think of that.
And that's the sad part, is you deprive yourself of the gift, and you just
Mhm.
deprive the world of
Yes.
your gift. And
Yeah.
the same thing like with the speaking side of it. I mean, we have a voice
We do.
and we have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly believe that when we say stuff, it makes a difference because it impacts people,
Yes.
or I wouldn't do it. I don't want to do it just for the sake of flapping my gums.
Mm-hmm.
And, and when we don't speak up, then I think people lose out.
Yes.
And that's sad.
That is sad. I think one of my favorite things I enjoy about you is you have this ability where you combine like a ton of life wisdom, because you've said yes to a lot of opportunities, being around a lot of amazing people. And I think that brings a certain, I don't know, I want to say gravitas, but it's wisdom. Wisdom's the only word I know how to use. And then you also combine a topic that I love, which is sales. And I think so many people have just this negative attitude of sales, but we're always selling ourselves. We're always
Sure we are.
presenting a product. We are the product, an idea, a concept. And for me, sales is really about communication, right? Walking people through decision making, which is something we're
Yeah.
not taught. And, so it's like you combine like two of my favorite topics.
It's having a conversation that leads to a commitment.
Yes. Yes.
It's a difference between dating and
Mhm.
getting married. I mean,
Yes.
one is just dating, is prospecting,
Yes.
and the other is making a commitment.
Yes. There's some follow-up there.
It's the follow-up. And
The follow-up.
and the other one implies lots of customer service.
Yes. Yes.
I tell people, the fact that Irene married me proves I'm a good salesman.
Yes.
The fact that we're still married proves that I understand customer service.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. No, it's so true though. And I think about that a lot because of course I love the topic of it. I love discussing the language of it. I love talking about the words around it. I think it's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
And I wish more people embrace it as such.
And the truth of it is, if you talk to people, if you're coming at it from the right perspective,
yes,
that you're there to help them,
yeah,
not sell them,
yeah,
then you help them explore what's a good fit for them.
yep,
It's like even in the speaking business, it was one of our National Speakers Association's presidents that said, he said, and this goes back probably 15, 20 years. He said, worry about fit before fee.
Yes.
Make sure you're the right fit for the event before you talk money. If you're not the right fit, it doesn't matter what you're charging.
Well, I mean, cost is always a question of value. And I know that when that really hit home for me, it just wasn't about that anymore. It just was, it was like, well, it's a question of value. So can I add value to you? What will be the value to me? What's the value to the impact? And that's easy for me because I like to live my lives by a set of values. And so then it even matters in, who I'm talking to in terms of the companies that I might work with, which shifts it for so many people. They think, wow, and I'm like, no, it's a sales conversation, which means I'm deciding if I want to sell to you and you're deciding if you want to buy from me. There's it's a,
it really does work both ways.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, you want some of the business, you want an opportunity for all of the business, but you don't need all of the business.
No.
Nor do you want all the business. I mean, some customers are more trouble than you're worth, and you've probably run into that over the years. There's some people that are the customer from hell, and there are some people you just don't want to do business with. And after a while, you get to understand that, and hopefully, if you're lucky, you pick up on it early enough in the conversation to say, I really think I'm not the right fit for you. Let me introduce you to somebody else.
Yes, who is much better.
And then you go.
Oh, yes. And then, it's even better when you can match up the right personalities, somebody you wouldn't have fit with, and you match them up and those people go, oh, this was great. And you're like, you're welcome.
Well, for example, when I was working in BC in the kitchen business, when I first started back into it, I was working with a company actually out in Aldergrove. And there were 7 of us on staff. 4 of us were certified kitchen designers, or 5 of us, something like that, a whole bunch. And there was one lady there, and if I was having a problem with a customer, then lots of times I would introduce them to Linda, and she would take it over because she had a different take to it, because it was woman to woman, and because sometimes it's you're not connecting, and you don't want to lose the business.
No.
And, so I'd say, let me introduce you to Linda. And then I just find a reason to slowly pull out, and she would take it over, and she would get the business for the company, and we'd all win. Yeah. That's the same thing. Like when I was helping build a leasing company for a Honda dealership. And I literally had to sit down with the salespeople in the sales side of it and say, guys, you're killing this. You don't grind them and then finally say, well, let me introduce you to Bob and George over in leasing, because by that time they don't give a shit. They want to leave.
Yeah.
If you understand what's happening, and here's the key points you start to look for, you say, I think maybe I should have somebody from our leasing department at least explore that with you. The end result is they still sell a car, because the car we lease has to get bought from the dealership. And by the leasing company, and there's financing and whatever. And so we get a chance to actually build a relationship instead of losing the customer.
I have,
and they still got a finder's fee. You get something rather than nothing.
Yes. And I think too many people are, short sighted. I mean, I only worked in car sales for 2 weeks because of that, because I had grown up with some of the greats, right? I had an opportunity to be trained with Floyd Wickman, very much the gentleman seller. I had seen, Brian Tracy, and it was all very much relationship, right? So you sacrifice maybe the first because you were looking in the long term and the benefits of that versus, some companies which are just, get it done, get them in, get them out. And I was like, that doesn't fit for me at all.
That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't work. They're pissed off.
My sister and my brother-in-law have one guy they've been dealing with at City Ford for probably 10, 12 years. I've seen them go through about 8 or 9 vehicles for this one guy in 10 years. Because at a time, for a while there, they both had a vehicle.
Yep.
And then when they retired, they went back to one. But for a while, and they're the kind of people, they trade them off every 2 years.
Yep.
And so they'd always go back to this one guy.
Okay. But that's the kind of relationships.
And that's good business.
That's just good business. Yes.
That's good business. It's like Kim Yost, who was the guy that, that we did the work for the brick originally. And he was the one that said, hey, come to Chicago. And then he got headhunted by another company in the States to come and help them reorganize and whatever. That was about the time that Bill Comrie was going to be selling out of the brick. He was basically going public and whatever. So Kim took that, and I got this phone call from him. And he said, Kim phoned me and he said, Bob, such and such a company isn't subscribed to the secret selling tips either, is it? And I said, no. And he said, and they're not going to be unless you come for a visit.
Well, there you go.
Because there's a relationship.
Yes, it is.
And so I looked at my schedule and said, tell you what, I'm speaking in Europe next month. How about if I haven't booked my flight yet. How about if I organize my flight to come back through Detroit, because he was in Michigan, and I can spend a couple of days with you and we can hang out and go for dinner. And I can introduce what we're doing to your company. And so we did. That was like $10,000. And all I did was I spent an hour in the morning talking to some of their people. And then at lunch, I talked to the managers and said, okay, here's what we just did. And that was relationship.
All about the relationship.
Yeah. And if you look at the book, on the back of the book, testimonial from that same guy. Same guy. He says, Bob Hooey has spent the better part of a lifetime sharing sales tips and how selling is part of everything we do. Now he's gone deep into history. This is like the fun part. And revealing an idea-rich secret selling tips handed down through the ages to only a select few. He's really creative this way. He's now writing his own books. He's
not writing his own books. That's awesome.
He's writing, adventure books, because he started a company called Life Chest International, because when he was traveling the one time, he was in Thailand or someplace. And in that case, families would have a life chest where they would put memories. And he said you'd walk in and some of them, they'd see 3 chests in a row, because it was like 3 or 4 generations. They would just put mementos and things. I've got one of them actually under my desk here.
Cool.
But that's the idea. Memories and things that you do, you keep and you remind, And so he started this thing and he started selling it on the side. And his wife now took over the company and has evolved it. And they've started to do books. They've done a series of books that around, and he's all of a sudden he's become this amazingly creative in that aspect of it.
Yeah.
He's always been creative in the sales and marketing side. And now he's doing what I'm doing, but within a specific focus. Wow. And I love it. I just think it's amazing.
Well, I think, it kind of loops back to when I asked you, like, how did you get started, right? Who would have thought that, somebody who started in kitchens would end up being, Canada's ideas man? And I think, good on you for not limiting your own self and getting onto some beaches and going, I should try this. I love that.
Think about it. What's the worst that can happen? I have to go back to work.
Yes, I know, right? What's the worst that can happen? Just keep doing what I'm doing.
I go back.
Right? That's it.
Yeah. Well, that was part of the conversation, because I was a certified kitchen designer at that time. There were 15 certified kitchen designers in BC. Yeah. All of them were working except me, because I had left this company. Sure. And I thought, worst case scenario, I know I can get a job somewhere because I have a marketable designation that so few people in the kitchen industry have.
Yeah.
It's not like I'd be out of work for too long.
No.
But I had been speaking part-time, made $18,000, a day here and a day there and a day here, doing little hour and 15-minute conversations with an audience, and
here you are.
I thought, what the heck, let's try it.
What the heck? I thought, what the heck, let's try it. Well,
isn't that fun?
I have sincerely enjoyed another conversation. We have easily blown through an hour, the two of us hanging out, holding space, talking about interesting things. And I want to say a big, huge thank you for joining me again in this way.
The pleasure is mine.
Really appreciate it.
We'll have to do this again, and we can have the
absolutely
the triple.
Absolutely. Oh yes, we're definitely having you back for another Encore because I'm sure there's going to be some things happening as the world continues to open up. Who knows?
I sure hope
I
so.
sure hope
I'd like
so.
to be able to say, I just, well, like when I was teaching, it was
Yes.
so fun when I
Yes.
was teaching at the one college, because I literally was traveling a lot. And I'd say, well, yesterday when I was speaking in Chicago,
Yeah.
because I literally had come home that night
Right.
or the morning, and then I'm teaching my class on presentation skills. Or last week I was in Minneapolis or Toronto, or it was like real life
Yes.
stuff. I'm teaching what I just learned and did yesterday or last week. And or tomorrow I'm jumping on a plane and I'm flying somewhere else, because that was my life in those days.
That was your life. Well, here's hopefully soon.
And so hopefully soon. Please, please, please.
Oh my goodness. And for my listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode. I appreciate you. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And of course, we'll have all of the information for you to connect with Bob, get your hands on one of his new books, and get them applying in your own life. And with that, thank you so much. And I will catch you all on the flip side.
Right. Thank you so much.
Hi. My name is Candice Smiley, and I'm so grateful that you're taking a look at Modere as a supplemental income option for you and your family. Modere, in my opinion, is an incredible opportunity for you to get in on the online gig economy and the affiliate marketing world that is just enjoying some serious buzz right now. Let me tell you what Modere is not. Modere is not your typical MLM. It is not a scam. It is not a pyramid. And it's not you having to bother your friends. Bonus, right? I'll tell you what it is though. It is an online social retail phenomenon. And what is social retail? Social retail is you using your social networks to drive retail sales. Bonus, the products, we've got over 100 products. Health and wellness, skincare, collagen sciences, products that people actually want and love to use in their day-to-day. Best part, the products are priced comparably. So they measure up with other products on the market. Now, no, you're not going to be peddling products to your friend. Forget what you think you know about the old MLM model way of doing things. This is very simple. Let me explain. For $39.99, you get access to the social retail or shiftingretail.com back office, which handles all of your accounting and all of your affiliate managing system. There's also tons of training there, as well as on two major Facebook groups, the Legacy Team and the Real Results 2.0. So products-based and team-based. Very, very cool. Now you actually can come in here and only spend $39.99 and make sure that you've got customer orders coming in. So you don't actually have to place an order to be qualified for commission, but orders do have to be moving through your affiliate referral system code. Let me explain. Our products have a point-based system, which makes sense considering that we're all over the world. So you're not limited in your network to one single space. You continue to do your social media the way you normally do. You post a referral link or, hey, I'm loving these products, or hey, just read about these new products, absolutely loving them. You post that referral link, people go to the referral link, and it looks a lot like Amazon or any other online store. There's no weird communications. It's just simply purchase the product. All of the products have all of the product profiles, so it's easy to see ingredient lists, calorie counts, different percentages. There's usually reviews of people, real people, using and loving the products. There's ingredients, and there's often the science that went into it and products that work really well with that one. So the upsell is actually done for you by the company. Any and all of your customers who get started earn you between 10 and 36% commissions. Now, if you choose not to purchase product because you can only afford the $39.99 and you really want to see if this is as true as I say it is, you'll need to have at least 2 orders go through your business to equal 150 points of customer volume, new customer volume every single month. But you never have to buy any of the products if you don't want to. Pretty cool, right? As soon as you hit that quota of 150 PV points, point volume points, you are qualified for commissions and you'll be paid on the commissions of those 150 points. Bonus. Now, let's say you decide you want to buy something that costs, I don't know, $30 and you get a few points from that. That counts toward that volume. So you really have a lot of flexibility in how you want this to work for you. This app delivers to your phone every day, training and done for you posts for your social media, which means we are taking the guesswork out of you knowing how to build this affiliate gig. If you choose to join my team, I'm going to add you into a Facebook group where I coach the people that are working with me on how to maximize their affiliate and referral-based business. It is an exciting time to be online, and we're seeing people take their small-time social retail business into an incredible supplemental income for them. Caveat, it takes work, it takes time, and it takes energy. But you're already spending a lot of time on your social media platforms. You are already spending time doing the scroll. And we can show you how you can begin to allocate a small amount of time every single day to begin to create this referral-based, affiliate-based gig economy, which I'm really excited to show you. Anyway, I know you've got some questions. Some product videos will be sent to you. We can also send you some more videos in terms of the compensation plan in its fullness. Happy to show you how this whole thing works.